Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, thank you all for your service, all of you. I appreciate it very much. First of all, I want to say that I'm old enough to remember vividly the Vietnam War and all the conflicts we've had since then. And I believe this is the most just position the United States has ever taken for the right cause, to be involved for the sake of freedom and democracy, and what I think we all should be doing. So I'm very supportive and very appreciative of our efforts, and all of them. But also we can do much better. I always think that too. I would ask the question to any of you all can answer on these here. Do the Ukrainians have the ability to produce weapons themselves? Are they manufacturing? Do you all know if there's any manufacturing in Ukraine right now? Ms. Mascott.
Thank you, Senator. The Russians, from the beginning of the war, systematically attacked Ukraine's defense industrial base. So a lot of those factories
That's since 2014?
Since what they could range back then, but especially since 22. I mean, that's part of their strategy that they actually did implement. They went after those factories, so either the workers are mobilized or they're fighting, or the facilities are damaged. So no, at this point—
They're not producing anything. They're depending totally, and there's a reason for that then, what you're
right,
saying.
there's a structural reason for that, yes.
Okay. And in Crimea right now, you know, I saw this morning there was a report in television that's showing that most Crimeans are Russian, believe that they are part of Russia and want to remain part of Russia. But I understand that Zelensky and Ukrainians want that to be part of their country, because it is. So where do we go with that? How do you, and Miss Dr. Stanton, maybe you can talk to this, or any of y'all can answer it. Is it possible that Crimea would come back and be part of Ukraine, or would it remain separate?
Well, President Zelensky has said that it is we do know what Ukraine's at least official war aims are, and it is their aim to take back Crimea, which of course the Russians illegally annexed in 2014. There are some people who believe that if the Ukrainians tried to take back Crimea, if we come back to the question of escalation now, that would be a quote-unquote red line for Putin, and that might lead to a real military escalation. I think it's unlikely in this present phase of the war that the Ukrainians would be able to take back Crimea. Maybe they will in the longer term, depending on what happens in Russia, how
No, the bridge has been repaired. I saw the bridge is back in operation.
The bridge is back in operation. I don't know what you think they are.
Anybody else on that?
Senator, you know, Zelensky made the comment the war began in Crimea in 2014. It will end in Crimea. And I think he has to take that into consideration. I do think the Ukrainians with support can, in fact, penetrate towards Kherson, towards Crimea, and put it at risk. But that would be something for negotiations somewhere along the line. Wars end by negotiations, and that would just be part of it.
My only concern is basically it seems like the Crimean people there are sympathetic and feel more connected to Russia than they do Crimea, from what we're hearing in type of reports. And without the citizen support, like they have the rest of Ukraine, it's be quite difficult, I would think. The biggest thing I'm concerned about is accountability. I think our support is unwavering. It's bipartisan, Democrat and Republican, overwhelmingly supporting the United States effort and supporting Ukraine. I'm concerned about the accountability. Are we basically good, from Inspector General, a good counting on the equipment we're sending, the money that we're sending, vice versa? Because if you look at what happened in Afghanistan, that whole country, I mean, just was reeked with corruption. And I think it showed how quickly they fell as soon as we left. And I also believe that we left the wrong way. And I think that gave Putin much more stimulus to do what he's done. You have any comments on that, General?
Yeah, I think we're getting better, Senator, on accountability. We're not there yet. When we were in Ukraine recently, they do not object to accountability. I would provide a special inspector general or something like that, provide on the team to ensure accountability to the American people and make sure that their money is being well spent out there. But are there problems? Of course there are, but they're getting better at it and they're trying to fix it.
And General, the last move that I think Zelensky's just removed one of his top officers, a top military person, and replaced him. What do you read into that? Any of you?
Well, he's not only replaced military officers, he's also replaced several other people in his office because of corruption concerns out there. On the other side, remember the Russians are on their 5th general and that is running this war.
No, I know that, but I'm saying, do you think it's a smart move? Dr. Stanton, do you have any comments on that?
I think President Zelensky understands that if the the European Union is really ever to accept Ukraine, it has to do a much better job of dealing with corruption. So I think some of the sackings that we've seen in the past few weeks, both of military personnel, but then other personnel, it's all connected to that. And hopefully, he'll make progress with it.